minutes of or Let's Not Meet and 20 minutes of AITA. So that's why I want to get straight into it. So I try to do 20 minutes even of each of them for convenience sake, etc. So I haven't done that in a while. I've just done Reddit stories, but I've been doing AITA a lot, so I'm gonna switch it up, I guess. So the first one is, we're gonna start with or no sleep. So I'm beginning to love my wife help, and I'm like, I don't really see why that's a problem. But yeah, some of this or no sleep, I feel like they're highly made up, I guess. It's like fictional. Hey everyone, it's been a while since I posted here. I won't bother with introductions. I just need to share this while I still can, before my mind gets filled with more things I can't explain. I don't even know how long I'll remain me. Love stories usually start with a chance meeting, don't they? Mine began this year when I met the woman of my dreams. Literally, she was everything I've ever dreamed of, down to the smallest detail. We shared every interest, finished each other's sentences, laughed at the same jokes. Perfect matches like that don't really happen, do they? I should have wondered about that. Her accent marked her as foreign, though I could never quite place from where. When our eyes met across the cafe, she approached first, her voice like warm honey in my ears. We talked for hours, the world fading around us. She mentioned she was new to the city, staying at a hostel while looking for a place. Something in her voice made my heart ache when she described her struggles to find somewhere permanent. Without thinking, I offered her a place to stay. My apartment had a spare room after all. Looking back, who offers their home to a complete stranger? Yeah, not really. You wouldn't really do that. But at the same time, it felt as natural as breathing. It was like the words came from my mouth before my brain could process them. Yet somehow it felt like the most obvious thing in the world. It wasn't until weeks later that I realized something odd. She had known my name from the start, though I never introduced myself. When this thought surfaced, it slipped away just as quickly, like trying to hold on to a dream after waking. Then came the dreams. Night after night, I jolt awake, heart racing, certain she was beside me, those sweet eyes of hers we fixed on my face, her lips moving in whispers of a language I couldn't grasp. But when I truly woke, everything was normal. Our usual morning routine, her in the kitchen cooking, me sitting down, waiting to be served. When did that become normal? When did I start forgetting what my life was like before her? God, what happened to me? Since when was I this hopeless romantic? The guy who used to stammer just asking for coffee directions, now living with a beautiful stranger. My old friends would laugh if they saw me, if I still talked to them. When did I stop talking to them? Her family appeared next, insisting on meeting me. They shared her strange accent, their voices carrying the same melodic quality that made my thoughts go fuzzy around the edges. Isn't she perfect for you? They'd ask, their smiles warm and inviting. You two are meant to be together. Within a week we were dating. Within a month they were planning our wedding. Can you believe that? Our wedding. The thought should have shocked me more. I hadn't even told my sister, the same sister who would interrogate me for hours about any girl I so much as smiled at, the sister who called every Sunday without fail. When was the last time I answered her calls? I remember catching my reflection one morning. Something seemed different about my eyes, the color maybe. Or was it something deeper? Something the way they followed her movement, like a sunflower tracking the sun. The thought vanished before I could grasp it. Like everything else that didn't fit into her perfect world. Then I met her relatives who came to visit. The way they welcomed me with such genuine warmth and affection, like I was already part of their family. The children were different, though. They would stare with those unnaturally still eyes, pointing and whispering their language. Again, new brother, good. feel like trying to grasp smoke. My mind was too much in a haze during those days. Each question that surfaced in my mind would dissolve like a morning mist. There are whole weeks I can't recall, places I don't remember going to, yet somehow I ended up there. Then they brought me to their family estate, a sprawling property just 2 hours from the city. The roads getting there grew narrower and narrower, the houses fewer, until we turned onto a private drive I would have missed if not for my wife's direction. The honeymoon started normally enough, despite being so close to civilization. The thick woods surrounding their property made it feel like we were in another world. The isolation should have bothered me, but like everything else about her, it felt right. She was the perfect wife, anticipating my every need, her love wrapping around me like a warm blanket. Too warm, too perfect. When did I start losing myself in her eyes? When did her voice begin to drown out my own thoughts? Sometimes I'd catch her watching me sleep, her fingers tracing patterns in the hair above my skin. The next morning my arms would itch, though I saw no marks. By this point in our marriage, 6 months had passed. The discussions had become a constant backdrop to my life. Warm family conversations in corners, joyous celebrations I couldn't understand. Those affectionate exchanges between my wife and her mother that would shift to English the moment I entered a room. The frustration of being surrounded by all his love, yet missing half of it, started to crack through the haze of contentment they had wrapped around me. Even my love-addled state, something in me yearned to be a part of every aspect of my new family. That's when I had what I thought was a brilliant idea. I would learn their language in secret. Their genuine warmth and inclusion in everything else made me want to understand every word, every joke, every story shared. Maybe it was a desire to truly be a part of this loving family, or maybe some part of me was still fighting to understand what was happening. Whatever drove me, I began my study. For 4 months, I carefully learned their tongue. I used children's reading books, noting down phrases I heard during our family gatherings. I looked forward to surprising them all, imagining their delighted reactions when I could finally join their conversations fully. The strange thing was, even as their words began making sense, so did other things. Things I hadn't wanted to understand. Each translation brought clarity, like pieces of a puzzle I hadn't known I was solving. Time flowed strangely after that. While I was nearly caught studying one night, my wife brought up something new. She insisted I get tribal tattoos. Family tradition, they said, showed me intricate tribal designs that seemed to dance in the candlelight. They looked beautiful, and I agreed without hesitation. Looking back, I wonder if my growing understanding of her language had weakened whatever spell they had over me, because for the first time I noticed how their eyes gleamed when I said yes. The way their loving gazes carried something else beneath the surface. Those concerned whispers between family members, always followed by reassuring smiles. The children's seemingly innocent chatter that held darker meanings. Everything started making terrible sense. One night I overheard her speaking with her mother. Dear, it's time. Prepare. He's yours. Final, perfect love. Their sweet smiles felt different now that I understood their words. The children's warnings made horrible sense. Each new brother before me. Where had they gone? What happened to the old brothers? After piecing everything together, I knew I had to leave. Even if I was misunderstanding something, I couldn't take the risk of staying to find out. My skin burned where the tattoos were, and sometimes in the mirror, I swore I saw them moving. words I'd seen in their ancient books. I made an excuse about needing to sleep as I was too tired. They were deep in the discussion and made the fatal mistake of letting me go. I grabbed everything I could: power bank, phone, food, blankets, and anything else that might help me survive. My hands shook as I packed, and I tried to ignore how my fingernails had started to look different, longer, darker, more like hers. I ran. That's where I am now, hiding in these woods, trying to ignore how the tattoos glow through my clothes. The air is freezing, but I feel warm, too. Too warm. There's a smell like metal and roses rising from my skin, but that can't be right, can it? Darkness is falling now. The familiar city lights are probably visible somewhere beyond these woods, but I can't find my way through their property. The trees all look the same, and somehow I keep circling back. I found shelter against a massive tree, using its thick roots as a shield, but I'm not sure how long I can stay here. The tattoos, they're whispering now, calling me back. The metallic smell grows stronger, mixing with something sweet and familiar, her perfume. My phone sits useless in my hand. I should call someone, my fingers won't dial. My thoughts keep slipping away, replaced by memories of her smile, her voice, her touch. No, those aren't my thoughts. That's not me. Sorry, that's not me. I hear footsteps crunching through the snow behind me, soft, familiar, perfect. What are you writing there, dear? Her voice flows like honey, and my body turns toward it without my permission. Frost falls from my face. When did that start happening? Just my story, sweetheart. Don't worry. The words leave my mouth, but they don't feel like mine anymore. Were they ever mine? Why don't we go home, she asks, and I feel my mind clouding over with warmth and love and surrender. The last thing I see as I turn to her is my reflection in her eyes, my own eyes now, the same impossible color as hers. My wife says hi. Okay, wow. Creepy. Okay, some of these are so long that I'm like, I don't want to start another one now. Okay, this one isn't as long as, and that should be okay. Okay, so I bought a vintage camera in Peru, but after what I've seen in the photos, I wish I hadn't. I bought a cool looking film camera in Lima, Peru at a secondhand shop. My best friend and I wandered around the city center and came across a street that sold secondhand clothing. The craziest looking collectible old toys and electronic shop was just a few blocks down from there. The place looked like the old garage of a hobbyist who was interested in vintage toys, old electronics, and weird keychains from 100 years ago. Everything was covered in dust, and it looked about as neat as the front yard rummage sale, and several glass cases were filled to the brim with vintage toys. There were a few vendors inside this dusty, strange place, and when I saw the vintage cameras in a case, I made a beeline for it. I'd just gotten into film cameras, and I was hoping to spot a camera to use for the duration of the trip. The cameras were sitting in an old aquarium tank. The green, yellow, and blue colored rocks on the bottom were layered with dust, as were the cameras. I pointed to a few that looked interesting. A red, snappy Canon, automatic, and a point and shoot Minolta caught my eye at first. My Spanish was terrible, so we communicated via body language. The woman showed me how the cameras worked, where to deposit the film, and the battery location. I asked and mimed, "Do they work?" She nodded her head as if it was silly for asking her that. As if I was silly for asking her that. "Of course, all the cameras work," she responded. Leaning forward on the glass aquarium case in front of the cameras, she continued to pull out to show her stock. I picked up a chunky black Fujifilm camera. That's what I'm filming on, Fujifilm. look like a small brick. I've been wanting a chunky camera and asked her about the price. She held up her fingers to show 17 Peruvian soles, which was about 20 something US dollars. Do not use film in camera, she said, pointing to the back of the Fujifilm camera. Do not use film, she said again, tapping it with her long acrylic fingernail. Okay, I responded, I won't use the film inside. She smiled and nodded. 70 soles. I produced the money and met my friend outside. She got bored after a few cameras had been pulled out and was more interested in taking photos of the odd toys in the different cases. We did a couple more hours of exploration. I found a battery that worked for the camera and bought some extra film to use in the camera. Hey, pose for the camera, I said to my friend, aiming the camera in her direction. Hold up, hell no. Didn't that lady say not to use that film in the camera? You're about to steal my soul with that shit, she said, getting up and putting her hands in front of her like she was pushing an invisible box. She probably meant the film is shitty and old, but fine, I won't use the camera to steal your soul, I said jokingly, pointing the camera at myself and snapping 2 photos of me holding up the peace sign before the camera made a sound that signaled I'd reached the end of the roll, and I was rewinding the film inside the canister to be taken out and developed. I popped it out and replaced it with some 800 ISO film, the film that I preferred when I wanted to take cool photos at night. Night was coming and I wanted to shoot a few photos of city life in Lima. So before we went home, I grabbed a couple shots, mostly how traffic looked at night, people walking under streetlights. The coastline of Barranco was beautiful at night. I used up the whole roll. The next day, with a quick Google search, I found a film developing shop nearby where we were staying and convinced my friend to take a little detour there before we started exploring for the day. I wanted to make sure the camera took good photos before I decided to take more photos. I'd be annoyed if the photos turned out badly because the camera wasn't working well. The film shop was super basic. It consisted of mostly just a beat up white counter with an older gentleman who was running the place. The paint was peeling but had a beautiful pink and purple flower motif that was faded around the perimeter of the shop and looked like it needed a repaint about 10 years ago. The sign posted 1 hour of development time, so I pointed to the sign that produced the shot film rolls and the amount to pay for both film canisters. My friend raised an eyebrow at the 2 film canisters on the countertop. I knew she was silently judging me for not only using the film, but for developing it too. I shrugged. I wanted to know what was on the old roll. I'd done it before with old drift cameras and seen interesting photos. Why would this one not be much different? We went about our day in the city, checking out the coastline, doing our own walking tour, and having the best Peruvian lomo saltado ever. My friend stayed in after lunch to rest and chat with her partner while I took a detour back to the shop to pick up my film. The shop owner recognized me and pushed 2 sets of paper envelopes to me that held both the photos from each of the films I shot. I sat down on a bench outside a nearby park before heading home to check out the photos. I pulled out the prints from the film that was previously shot in the old camera. A few photos were unreadable, probably because the back of the camera had been opened before the film was developed. The rest were fine. The photos in the old camera were first. It looked like a photo of a grand family dinner. People were sitting around a dark wood oak table with pink and purple floral decorated ceramic plates, basic chrome silverware. There was plenty of food on the table, also on the plates. There were smiles all around, but something felt strange about the photos. It seemed to be shot with 800 ISO film, dark film too, which I didn't initially notice, but the people were in pitch black dark. The light source was candles on the table mostly, and the flash from the camera. I flipped through a couple more photos and then realized I didn't see any kids. Maybe it wasn't a family. All adults were all wearing a white top with pink and floral patterns. A design course. There were cloven hooves with 5 segments on one of the plates at the centre, with the coily dark hair still on it. There was some inky dark meat that looked like someone had taken a sledgehammer to it on another plate. There was a stack of 3-fingered hands lying neatly on a plate, gold and silver jewellery still on them. There was a bowl of what I thought were boiled eggs, but on closer look it seemed that they were eyeballs. As I continued through the photos, the smiles actually looked strained. The eyes were wide open and almost sad. I think I saw a tear rolling down the cheek of one of the men. Their smiles looked like someone was pulling a taut strand across their cheeks, as all teeth were showing for everyone. I realized the collar of my shirt was soaking wet. Felt a cool breeze on my neck, but I couldn't look away from the images. As I continued, the photos showed some dark shadow near the head of the table. It was taller and much bulkier than the people sitting down. It seemed humanoid but drawn. Its arms were longer than human limbs. They were pale, grey fingers with more joints than ours that protruded from the robe, golden rings on each finger. The body looked swollen and bulky underneath the white robe. It was donning a gold crown. I was trying to make out the face, but I couldn't. Then I saw the crown move, then tilted its head in my direction. My brain was starting to swim. My head was starting to hurt, and I felt the sweat rolling down my back. I dropped the photos on the ground. At that point, my hands were shaking, and when I looked up, it was already nighttime. How long was I looking at the photos? I didn't even get to see the ones that I took, but I didn't want to. It was late, and I needed to get back to the apartment. My heart was beating quickly. I put the photos back in my bed and headed back in my bag and headed back to our hotel. I feel like I heard strange whispers in my ear, but I think it was just my nerves. There were so many sounds in the city. I opened the door to our hotel and knocked on my best friend's door. Didn't want to expose her to whatever shit I saw with the first camera roll, so I tucked those prints away in my bag. "Janice, do you mind if we look at the photos together? Can I come in?" "Come in," she said. "And don't bring that creepy camera in my space," she said. I left the camera on the dining room table and headed back to her room. "Let's look at the pics I took last night," I said, pushing the photos towards her. Janice picked them up and flipped through the photos with confusion, disturbance running across her face. "We need to go to the police," Janice said, pushing the photos back towards me. I was confused. I didn't look at the second roll of photos I shot. I flipped through a couple. The first ones were normal, city lights, skyline moments. Then I saw something odd. Underneath the city lights, sitting on a bench, was a woman in the same floral pants and shirt that were in the photos I saw at the park. I continued on. A few people riding light-up bikes that I took, and one of them folks on the bike was wearing a white floral uniform. The selfie they took outside the day I got the camera came up next. There was a barely visible shadowy figure behind me in the distance, and I swear it had a gold glint on top of what was its head. Then I saw what Janice meant about the police. There were photos I didn't take in the roll. There was a photo of a pale hand reaching out of the closet in my bedroom of our Lima apartment. A picture of me taking a shower, my back turned to the camera. A photo of Janice and myself walking into a thrift store and talking to the woman I bought the camera from. Looked at Janice, and the moment I did, I heard the unmistakable click of the camera from behind me. I turned around and saw it on the console table in Janice's room, but I know I left it on the dining room table. "Dude," I said, "I didn't want that creepy shit in here," Janice said. I thought I left it on the dining room table," I responded. "We're going to the police," Janice said again, standing up. Creepy. Someone says, "Yo, this is good. Deaf fiction, but still really good." And someone says, "It was downvoted." And someone says, "Oh, on /nosleep, we assume everything written is true." Maybe that's what they say, but not really true, I don't think. Let's see. So we're gonna move on to Let's Not Meet. I feel like this video is gonna be a little bit long, just from that being a bit long. I wanted to finish the story. I thought it didn't look that I usually skate there. Usually I do have to deal with some creepy or strange people because I live in Las Vegas, Nevada, in a not so great part of town, so that's usually a common thing here. This night I went alone and there was only one other person at the park who I had met there for the first time. We had a good time and skated for around an hour, and just me and him. Eventually a guy with a child came walking into the skate park and came up to us. The first weird thing I noticed is the child had no shoes and was wearing pants and a t-shirt, even though it was pretty cold outside, even for me with a hoodie on. I noticed the guy had a lot of tattoos and was around 6 foot maybe. The guy starts first by talking to the guy I was skating with and tells him that he cuts hair and if he ever needs a barber to hit him up. My friend says thanks and he walks over to me and says the same thing. I just say, oh, alright, thank you. Thought he would leave, but no, he asks if his son can try my board. I was hesitant at first, but I said, alright. The child didn't seem to want to even try it. He had to pick him up by his arms and put him on it. Eventually the child stands on it and is trying. While he's doing that, the guy turns to me and repeats himself, saying he's a barber and that he's just here with his nephew. I thought it was really weird that he said it was his son first, and now he's saying nephew. Skipping like 10 minutes, my friend leaves me there and the guy is still there. He asks me to do a trick for his nephew, and while I'm doing it, forces him to watch me by holding his head in place towards me. After I do it, he repeats himself again, saying that he's a barber if I ever need a cut, and that he's here with his son. I then ask, didn't you say he was your nephew? To which he says, oh yeah, sorry, I get confused sometimes, my bad. I just shrug it off and tell him I need to go. He then says, yeah, his dad's coming to pick us up now. So I'm leaving, and I look back and he's getting into a car. I'm not actually going home yet. I was just getting to McDonald's to have something to eat. I then see the car drive off, but instead of going the opposite direction, he goes the same way I'm going, to the same McDonald's. Comes up to me again, says, hey, what a weird coincidence, I was hungry too, or something like that. At that point I just leave, but not before he repeats himself again and asks for my number, and I say no thanks. Really weird guy, just wondering if anyone has any theories or anything as to what was going on with him and this kid. Any questions, I reply, let me know. Someone says, I wonder if he mistook you for a courier or something for a drug deal, or worse. They're repeating the same phrases, almost like he's suspecting a specific reply. Though geez, after he didn't get the response he wanted the first 2 times, I'm surprised he didn't move on. What a creepy encounter. Glad nothing happened to you or your friend. I'm really worried for that child. Yeah, serious, I was so confused. He just kept repeating himself. I was more scared for the kid though, because it did not look right. That outside, like, yeah, with a kid, yeah, people are saying call the police, etc. and stuff like that. Okay. Next up, my first creeper. It's called So. This was a long time ago, so I apologize if the details are slightly foggy. This memory popped in my head tonight. I just genuinely felt it needed written down somewhere. Yeah, some of them, if I say something wrong, it's because the grammar or it doesn't exactly make sense, so they're missing a few words, etc. It was a crisp autumn day of my 3rd grade year. I was heavily bullied and I didn't have a lot of friends. I valued the few I did though. Luckily, my teacher that year, Mrs. Rebine, put us in alphabetical order by our last names. This put me near my friend Tom. Tom is the kind of friend you keep to the grave. We were chatting that morning when Mrs. Rebine introduced us to the new student, Charlie. Charlie was fairly gaunt and poorly dressed, not in the unfashionable way, but in the way that his clothes were very battered, like they should have been replaced many months ago. That's when Mrs. Rebine said the unthinkable. Charlie's last name would split up Tom and I for seating. Disappointed, I introduced myself to Charlie, hoping to gain another friend. Charlie didn't speak much. Hindsight, it was likely nerves. Over the next coming days, Charlie started making me uncomfortable. Not in a way I could really put my finger on why. I remained kind though, as I was desperate for friends. After lunch, when all of the students myself, Charlie approached and sat on the swing next to me. I showed him my Pokemon game that I was playing and explained what I thought I knew about the game to him. That's when Charlie asked to kiss me. Freaked out, I said no and stopped talking to him. Over the next coming days, Charlie would become more and more overbearing, bringing me jewelry he obviously stole from his mother, begging me to be his girlfriend. I was young, I didn't know how to handle it. Tom told him to leave me alone, which helped a little bit, and at first I assumed the main character or the person here is a boy, but it's a girl. Unfortunately, we had a line dancing day in gym that week. We weren't allowed to tell people no if they asked us to be their partner. I saw Charlie approaching and panicked, and luckily Tom and I paired up right away, saving me from the awful situation where I'll be forced to dance with Charlie. Charlie shortly thereafter would start threatening Tom. Kids in the 90s would threaten to kill each other all the time. This wasn't exactly cause for concern in the way it is now. Charlie's rage would get worse and worse anytime someone else would talk to me. It was become increasingly concerning. Then one day he brought a knife to school. I was scared, but also too scared to say anything about it, so I kept it secret. Unfortunately, on this day I was sent outside for recess. I would have much preferred to clean the cafeteria. On this day, Charlie's sister, whom I cannot for the life of me recall her name, decided to call me ugly. Honestly, this was pretty normal for me to be bullied, so I shrugged it off. That's when Charlie punched his sister, chased her down, and kicked her in the face. After the recess advisor broke up the fight, they asked those around what happened. That's when I raised the concern that Charlie may have a knife on him as well. They searched his pockets, and he had a small fold-out knife in his pocket. He was expelled that day. I occasionally searched his name on Google, expecting to see his mugshot pop up for some sort of crime. Never saw him after that, but Charlie, let's not meet again. It's creepy. That is very creepy. I'm like, these ones are kind of meant to be more like real, etc. But yeah. Okay, so creepy guy at one bus station beside a train station who always tries to be there when I'm there. So I'm working on getting my learners, which I neglected for a long time due to other circumstances. So I take the bus and train or rides to get around if it isn't in walking distance that I find reasonable. I don't mind good walks, but I do try to limit myself to not push things too far. That's not important here though. So to go to work, I used to take the train to go to one bus station since that path was quicker and less crowded. I don't work at that place anymore, and only like 2 weeks after I left, the place got shut down, which I wasn't surprised by based on what I had seen happening. At this bus station, there was this one guy who took the same bus as me. At first, I paid him no mind while still keeping my wits about myself being a girl. And this bus station has seen druggies and homeless. Usually they sleep in the hut thing for passengers to stay warm and access things like a bus map and such. The guy noticed me, and at first it didn't seem like a big deal. He kept looking at me though, not much else. So he kept being there when I would arrive. However, I brushed it off as he probably needed the bus to get to his own destination. He kept watching me, which I didn't enjoy, though I tried to ignore it. Then he started to mimic what I did while waiting for the bus to arrive. I thought it was weird, as he never did those things like pace in a certain way, as I have a tendency to pace. I had things like different ways to turn to keep it a little interesting, and I see him try to even mimic the little things I had when I pace. Another time he got in my line of sight closer than before, only to start doing workout stretches like he was ready for a workout. I moved away and tried to ignore him again. I really hated that the guy was there every morning and kept a closer eye on him, as he wouldn't stop trying to do things to wordlessly get my attention. He then started getting on the same bus as me for work, though luckily I didn't always take the same final bus due to sometimes one being late. I also felt relieved when I figured out a path to be able to walk to my work in about half an hour from where I usually catch the last bus, so if I had time, I'd walk. I kept seeing him go to the bus I used most often, though I tried to pick a different one or shifted a few times, so I need to arrive at different times. I wouldn't see him for a day or so, and then suddenly he was back at it doing the same things at the same bus station. I have trauma about speaking up verbally due to how a parent treated me growing up, plus the guy hadn't really done anything to me other than try to get my attention and be at the same bus stop at the same time as me. So I didn't feel like I could really speak up about it. I just remained wary and ready in case he tried anything. After losing work, I didn't really need to head that way anymore, so I didn't see him for a long time, which was a relief. I had enough of people, men, follow me or creeping on me on the bus or at the stops or stations, including another time where a guy kept doing this on my way to get home until he suddenly followed me on the same bus a few times. I panicked knowing he was following me and stopped after I got off and went to my boyfriend, who came to meet me when I told him the guy was back. But that was a different guy and I never saw him again. However, this isn't where it ends. No, I love the route, so whenever I go to the mall, which is in the same path I would have taken to work, I use that route more. So then the one long bus ride that usually ran into traffic a lot, I stopped going to that mall as much to try to save some money. But one day I decided to go as I was bored, and it's my favorite mall because it has a lot of cool places, things to do, and plenty of things I like, such as collector shops. I got off the train and it's about midday, around 12 to 1 p.m. Note that usually for my work, I used to go buses between 7 and 8 a.m., so big time difference. However, there he was on a weekday at the same bus stop, the same bus station. I tried to ignore him, but he started pacing and kept throwing obvious looks in my direction. I tried to remain out of sight using this one girl who was also waiting for the bus, but keep my distance to not make it obvious. I was really uncomfortable because it certainly was long past the usual times before, confirming even more this guy was likely waiting there for me to show up or trying different times until I arrived. The girl noticed him looking over and looked at me as I moved to not be right in his line of sight. She kept looking between us, as I guess she could tell I was uncomfortable. She just didn't really seem to know what to do and seemed a bit surprised herself about this guy looking at me and making me uncomfortable. She didn't say anything and just kept on doing glances to him and me as if just keeping an eye on the situation for now. The bus arrived and we got on with the girl, just seeming to go about her day. She did glance to me as I picked a seat. The guy moved back so I'd get on first along with a few other people, though didn't do or say anything. The guy sat right behind me despite having plenty of spots to pick from, and he was leaning a little forward. I got up and moved to a different seat away from him. I saw the one girl watch for a moment before just going to her phone. I was relieved the guy didn't follow, though he kept looking my way, then away for a bit before sneaking another look. I got off and he went towards the bus stop where I usually got the next book for work. I went to the mall. I haven't taken that route in a while, and as usual, either someone drives me, I'm going to the mall from another location, so needing a different route, or I avoid the mall to focus on things like pills in my pregnancy. I also partially don't want to go because I'll take that route that gets me there faster and not be stuck in traffic or waiting a bus stop for a late bus, especially because I get extra motion sick due to my pregnancy. My last time doing so, I was taking a child I was babysitting out for food, and something fun to do with that mall being a perfect place. And something fun to do with that mall being a perfect place. I didn't see the guy there that time. Luckily, whoever you are, creepy dude, let's not ever meet. Please, I want you out of my life. Definitely unsettling behavior. Very much so. I hope you carry stuff like pepper spray in this. Sadly, it's illegal. But yeah. Escape from the unknown, so it was suggested to me to post my story here from creepy encounters. So this happened quite a few years ago. I had an affinity for a particular white substance in the form of lines back then. One very cold, snowy night around 11 p.m. I went for a walk to meet my dealer. I'd never been to his place before, so he gave me the address to his small 2-story apartment building with maybe 6 units in it. Upon arrival, I noticed several strangers inside. After they hit their pipes too clearly, unwashed eyes came over to sit at the dining table while I waited for my tea. I never smoked anything besides weed and cigarettes. I was instantly uncomfortable. They tried guys offered to walk me home. My heart started to sink. I politely declined. Okay, thanks. I don't live far. The other guy stood up. No, really. We can walk you. We don't mind. We have to get going anyway. That's when my instincts finally kicked in. I became very aware and very scared. I immediately thought, I'm fully dressed and ready to go, but they still had to put their coats and shoes. If I leave now, I'll get a head start and quickly disappear. They said something else as I headed for the door, but I pretended to take a phone call, waved goodbye to my dealer, and closed the door behind me. I jogged down the hallway to the outside door, and once I got outside, I ran for the street. I decided not to take the fast route home because from the building they'd be able to see me. Didn't want them knowing even the slightest direction I lived in if they were really following me. The building was the end of a street, so instead of going straight up the hill the way I initially came from, I turned right and started jogging. I kept glancing back, and finally I saw them about a block behind me, following me. The street I needed, Stanley Street, was across the intersection on my left, about another block ahead at a four-way light. As I approached the intersection, I noticed the corner house on my right. There was an older man sitting on his porch smoking. I recognized him. He was another dealer I had met only once a few weeks before when my usual guy was dry. I choked up as I got to his porch, and I asked if he remembered me. He did, and asked, "What's wrong?" I quietly told him, "I think these two guys are following me," and asked if I could go inside for a minute until they passed. He didn't hesitate. We went inside, past his front living room, and into the kitchen, where I explained what happened. He told me not to worry, that I was safe there and I could stay as long as I needed. Then we heard the knock at the door and started to panic. He went to the door, looked around the people, and yelled, "Just a minute." He came back quickly and whispered that he knew the guys and was going to invite them in to have a hit. He told me to sneak out through his back door, which was beyond the kitchen, go to the right of the yard and find the gate. This would lead to a side street. He instructed me to creep up along the side of his house, close to the shrubs, and check the porch to make sure they went inside. Followed his plan, and when the coast was clear, I didn't jog. I sprinted up Stanley Street and zigzagged all the way home. When I think back now, I'm in disbelief at my actions, how foolish I was. I thought I was invincible. I was far too trusting, but I truly thank God for the man who helped me that night. I don't know what those guys wanted from me, but I'm forever grateful I never had to find out. It says, "Thank goodness for his help. Hope you're in a better place now, OB." They said, yeah, they are. So I don't really want to start another story because it's going to take too long, but yeah, so Home Alone story. This happened over a decade ago when I was 12 years old. I live in a small town in Oklahoma, and in my neighborhood the houses are fairly spread apart, separated by woods. It was a school day, so my grandma picked me up from school and brought me home. This was the first year that I got dropped off at my house alone. Before this, I would just go to my grandma's house after school. I got dropped off at around 3 p.m. My parents would be home around 4:30 p.m., so not that big of a deal. Today, for some reason, my dad wasn't going to be home until later, around 7. My mom and teacher wouldn't be home until around 8 p.m. because she had a parent-teacher conference at the school. This happened in early fall, so it wouldn't even be dark until 8:30 p.m. I did what I usually did when I got home. I ran upstairs, got on my Xbox 360, and played Minecraft with my friends. Today it was just me and my friend Seth. I was playing for about 2 hours when I heard a car door shut in my driveway. No one should be here until like 7 p.m. My house is set up so my upstairs has windows that look over my driveway. So I mic on and controller in hand. I went to the window to see who it was. Maybe my dad got home earlier than expected. I looked outside. It was a red truck. No one I know drives a red truck. The person pulled into the middle of my driveway sideways like he owned the place. When I looked out the window, I saw a man with a hat wearing a big camo hoodie and jeans. It was September, so no one should have been wearing a big hoodie and jeans in Oklahoma. By the time I looked, he was already almost out of view going up my walkway to my front door. I thought maybe it was one of my dad's friends or someone my dad hired to do something, but he would usually tell me if someone was going to be coming over. Soon after, I heard a knock at the door, then another. I go to my window that has a better view of the walkway up to my front door. I see the guy walking back down the walkway. I switch and go back to looking through the windows overlooking my driveway. I'm relaying all of this to Seth, still with my mic on. I tell Seth that he's walking back to his truck now. Instead, he walks past his truck and tries to open my garage side door. At this point, sinks. I tell Seth this guy just tried to get into my house. Mind you, it's literally broad day at 5 p.m. Luckily it was locked because sometimes we forget to lock it. After he tried the door, he starts walking to my back patio. Drop my headset and quietly run down the stairs to see what he's doing. I get downstairs and stand behind the wall so I'm not visible from the back door/living room windows. Just listen, I hear him trying to open the door, then I hear a thud. It sounded like he dropped a brick on the ground or something. At this point, I'm more scared than I've ever been. Wanted to call my parents or grandma, but I didn't have a cell phone yet. The only phone in the house was in my kitchen. I would have to cross my living room to get there, and he'd be able to see me if I went into there. A few seconds after the thud, I peeked around the corner and he was gone. I run back upstairs and put my headset back on, telling Seth that he just tried to open the back door as well. As I'm telling him this, I hear a car door shut. This time when I look out the window, he finally got in his truck. I looked at the truck closer and noticed the only thing he has in his truck was a crowbar and a shovel. He sat in his truck for what felt like a few minutes. During this time, Seth told me to get my iPod and take a picture of his license plate. He was parked to where I couldn't see it. Then he drove backwards out of my driveway and down the road. A few minutes after he was confirmed gone, I went downstairs to see what the thud could have been. I get to the back door and see the doormat was moved. Both big plant pots had been moved as well. He was looking for a key. Holy F word, we have a hidden key back there too. The key to the back door was under one of the smaller plant pots on a ledge near the door, not the bigger one that he had checked under. I went to the front porch and all the pots looked like they had been moved too. Don't know what I would have done if he was able to find the key or if he just broke in. After he left, I called my dad and told him what happened. When my dad got home, he had a cop come over and told him what happened and gave him a description. The guy never came back. Wow, that is creepy. That is very creepy, honestly. Very, very creepy. Okay, so next up we have the last segment is the Am I the Asshole segment that I usually do. So am I the asshole for kicking my coworker out of the car after he littered? My coworker asked for a ride home today because of the snowstorm and Ubers were charging a ridiculous amount. I said sure, no problem. While I was driving, he opened the window and I asked why. He said, I'm just gonna toss my coffee cup. I said absolutely not and enabled the child lock. He got busy and said relax, everyone does it, it's no big deal. I warned him that if he littered from my car, I'm going to kick him out. He didn't need my warning and opened the door at a red light and just tossed his coffee cup, so I turned to the nearest parking lot and told him to go back and pick his garbage up, or I'm not dropping him off. We were still 15 miles away from his house and it was 20 degrees out. He only had a light jacket and a hoodie on. He refused and told me that I'm being overly dramatic. I told him to get out of my car. He refused, so I straight up told him that I'll call the cops and report him to management the next day if he doesn't leave my car. Only when I was with 911 did he leave my car. He told me that he'd pick up the litter. I told him it was too late and drove off. He kept calling, texting me, so I had to block his number. Am I the asshole? He probably paid $80 to $100 for an Uber. Someone says, I completely understand your point. I'm concerned that he refused to leave your car. That could have escalated. Please tell HR what happened before he thinks to do so. Not like a complaint, just mention it in case it comes up in your workplace. And they say, I'll definitely be talking to HR and my boss in a few hours about this. He's still in his probation period and I'm the one that's training him. I have this whole thing recorded with my cabin dash cam. Someone says he behaved this way with you, his trainer, during his probation period. I'd probably fire him for his stupidity alone. I don't know, like, he could have easily not littered, you know, like anyone else. Like, I have never thought to do that in my life, just open up a window and throw something out. I've been thought not to litter for sure. Even in the marathon, I make an effort, like, to save all the gel things. I mean, or put them in the bin, but like, it's sometimes hard to access the bin and I have them in my belt beforehand, so it's easy for me to store them in the belt after. There's nothing in them anymore, so there's like less stuff. It just can get a bit sticky in there maybe if there's a little bit left over, etc. But either way, I brought them to like the recycling station at the Amsterdam Marathon afterwards. And yeah, I tried to put all the cups in the bin, except one time I like tossed it and then it missed, but it was like close enough. But yeah, it's like littered everywhere in those parties, etc. But am I the asshole for letting my girlfriend wear nothing? It says, I'll try and keep this short. I, male 27, recently had my birthday party and invited some friends over for a night to drink, hang out, and normal party stuff. My girlfriend, female 25, is there and she's wearing a tube top and very short shorts. Nothing out of the normal. Good forward to the next day and everyone had a good time. A few days go by and I found out someone I invited, I'll call John, has been telling our mutual friends that my girlfriend was wearing nothing all night and was essentially begging him to hook up with her. Obviously stunned by this, I texted John and asked him if he was saying this or if my friends were messing with me. He admitted to all of it and my response was to tell him that he's no longer welcome over at my house. I really don't consider him a friend anymore. Is this too hot-headed? The more I think about it, the more I wonder if I'm overreacting. Please tell me what you would have done in this situation. So, at first I thought I was going to go a different way, like it was the girlfriend complaining about something, but oh, it's the guy friend. Was ex-friend. Someone says, yeah, people are just saying, no, like, John, that's wrong, like, the girlfriend can wear what she wants, we're not, like, the boyfriend didn't think it was, like, questionable, and even so, like, he shouldn't really, have a say on what the girlfriend wears, etc. But that it was nothing, and either way, whatever a girl is wearing, it's not an invitation for any man or anyone else, unless they are, hitting on you intentionally, like say the words, So I think she just thought that was like normal attire, etc. So am I the asshole for moving all my daughter's belongings to my parents' house and leaving nothing for my husband's affair kit? Am I the asshole for this? So my husband told me Saturday that he's had an affair and has a kid from it. Our kids are 14 male and 10 female, and this child is 9 female. Something happened to her mother in the last couple weeks. I was a little too busy screaming at him to listen to the details, and he was leaving to go get her. My daughter came to me crying, saying that he told her she had to share her room and her stuff with his girl for now. I called my parents and they agreed to her staying in their guest room, 2-bedroom condo, so my son and I are staying at the house. We packed her stuff, and Monday my parents, sister, brother-in-law, and nephews helped us move all our stuff to my parents' house. Parents' place. They also helped put locks on my bedroom, my son's bedroom. We moved all my husband's stuff from my bedroom to the 4th bedroom that he used as his home office. Yesterday evening, my husband got home with his affair kid. He got mad about all the stuff being gone and nothing being left for her. She's in a much warmer area and doesn't have clothes for the cold here. We live in the northern part of the US. This morning he caught me in the kitchen to complain to me about it again and said I was being cruel, but not making my daughter share with her. Am I the asshole? It says, definitely not the asshole for refusing to make your daughter share her belongings with her husband's affair child, but also, like, what is your ultimate game plan here? From the post, it sounds like you've completely relocated your daughter to her grandparents' house, even if she gets to keep all her stuff with her. It's not fair to move her out of the home just to safeguard her belongings. Honestly, it sounds like you need to kick husband to the curb and let him figure out how he needs to care for his affair child. If you intend to stay with the husband for some reason, then you need to seriously work through these logistics to ensure your daughter can come home and figure out how your husband's affair child factors into the equation. See, I'm going to file for divorce. My plan right now is for my daughter to stay with my parents until he moves out or I move out. And we were just trying to get her to kick him out, but they both own the house. So, okay, am I the asshole for telling my son the fact that his sister was happier to see her cousin was his fault? So, background, I, 42 male, have a son, Jack, 22 male, and a daughter, Cassie, 7 female, like fake names, from 2 different marriages. I had Jack with my first wife, Penelope, who passed away when Jack was 9. This hit both of us pretty hard. I thought Penelope and I were going to be together forever. It took me a long time to ready to date again, which I started doing when Jack was 14. He wasn't happy about this. My first girlfriend, my current wife, Sarah, through work. We dated for a few months before birth control failed and Sarah became pregnant. Because of that, our relationship progressed very fast. She moved in with Jack and I by the time she was 4 months pregnant. Jack was understandably very upset, but Sarah and I wanted our child to grow up in a two-parent household. Unfortunately, due to lack of space, we had to move out of the apartment I shared with my late wife. Jack was put in therapy to help him adjust. However, Jack and I did look out a bit with Sarah. Sarah made it a point to have prominent memorabilia of Penelope because of her awful stepmother, all but erased Sarah's mother. After Cassie, my daughter, was born, Jack wanted nothing to do with her, which was understandable but upsetting. However, Cassie's maternal cousin Will, 18 male, adored her from day one and happily stepped into that brother role. Frequent hangouts, playing with her dolls, etc. He even had a matching, I think, Hello Kitty necklace with her and used it as a good luck charm for her sport. This was the first year both Jack and Will left for college. Jack messed around during high school and had crappy grades and no scholarships. While I would be able to pay, I refused to pay $50,000 a year for him to screw around. So he went to community college for 2 years and this year transferred to a good school. Will was an A student as well as an excellent athlete and got an almost full ride to a faraway school. Thankfully, both boys were able to come home for Thanksgiving. Jack came home first. She greeted him without much fanfare, but was still happy he was home. This was very different from how she greeted Will. She waited at my sister-in-law's house for him, made a huge glittery sign, and started bawling her eyes out when she saw him. My sister-in-law posted the video of them reunited on Facebook, and Jack saw the video and was very upset at the difference in Cassie's welcome home enthusiasm. After listening to this for the 5th time, I snapped at him and told him these were the consequences of his actions. Do nothing to make a bond with his sister for the past 7 years. He got pissed and stormed off to his room. Since then, my former in-laws have been ringing my phone off the hook, yelling at me and demanding I reprimand my daughter for her lack of enthusiasm at his return. Cassie doesn't know why, but she can tell her brother is upset at her and it's affecting her. Will is pissed that Jack is making Cassie upset. I don't know what to do. It says you're correct about why Cassie prefers Will, but you're the asshole for how you are communicating with your son, Jack. He's your kid too, and it doesn't sound like you treat him very well. The way you frame the scenario sure makes it seem that you don't hold your own son in very high esteem. You're very quick to list all of Will's great characteristics and really critical of your son's perceived shortcomings. I framed my opinion of my son wrong. Jack is a great kid. He has a few issues which I blame firstly myself and then his mother's passing for, but he's a great kid. He's very smart. He just lost his way in high school for a bit and his grades suffered. I only mentioned Will's great characteristics as relevant to him going away for school, in my opinion. I have my issues with that boy, but I cannot deny how much he cares for Cassie. But yeah, either way, I can kind of agree. Like, you can see why Cassie prefers Will to Jack, because he's always been like a key figure in her life and really cares for her, etc. But hasn't received the same thing for Jack, so obviously she's gonna miss him more if she gets better treatment from him. But yeah, maybe the father should hold his son in higher regard, or etc. I don't know. So, am I the asshole for rage quitting after I lost an election? So I, 28 female, have been a member of a large volunteer organization for several years. I'm one of the longest standing members. I've spent hundreds of hours on various aspects of it. I've held small leadership positions in almost every area, and I have a large amount of experience being the president of another organization as well. When I first joined, things were not doing great, so I, with others, worked our asses off to improve that, and we did. In fact, we did so well with improving the atmosphere that we had a massive amount of incoming members who quickly became very close with each other, something we specifically encouraged, and I have absolutely no idea how bad things used to be or how much behind the scenes work it takes to maintain the way things are now. I ran for president in the most recent election. I ran against 5 other candidates. 4 of us had years of experience and had been preparing our campaign for months/years. One person, let's call them Alex, was extremely new. see where this is going. So it was extremely close between me and Alex, and I lost by 1 vote. The rest of the elected officials were all new members of the same friend group, also without experience. Then it was discovered that 9 to 10 votes, specifically the votes of other people in leadership positions who were closely with me, were not counted. This was not intentional or malicious, simply a computer error. Apparently, every single one of them voted for me. I technically won. They tried to get the election results overturned because of it, but higher-ups would not allow it because they feared it would look like favoritism. At the end of the day, I was told to keep quiet and not let anyone know about this. That brings me to my current situation, because nobody on the new executive team has any experience. I start facing a lot of pressure to take on a lower leadership position solely to guide them and ensure our hard work doesn't go to hell. I absolutely refused. In fact, I decided to drop all leadership roles and do absolutely nothing this year. This has led to multiple people telling me they don't truly care about the organization. They'll be responsible if it falls apart, etc. I feel like it's a slap in the face to explain to what a president does without the title to show for it. I'm the asshole for dropping all leadership positions and letting the new team do whatever the hell they want to do. They haven't actually left, have they? The work, they've just, kind of checked out, I guess. First things first, is there a paper trail where someone admits to the vote then? Like, that's provable. I wouldn't try to use it to overturn the decision, but I would absolutely publicly tell them that is the reason I'm quitting, and then quit. Since there is a paper trail, publicly give that reason and quit. There will be other organizations where you can make a massive difference. It's not a zero-sum game where this is the only place. People will try to guilt you, but it's self-serving. Also, your state of mind will not allow you to do your best anyway. It's better to go elsewhere. So, the last one, am I the asshole for refusing to drive 3 hours to Christmas lunch? A week ago, I suggested to my brother that I host Christmas lunch at my place and have him and his wife over. He liked the idea of spending Christmas together, but said he didn't want to deal with the Christmas traffic to get to my side of the city. Instead, he proposed that we celebrate on another day. I was fine with that and suggested we pick a location halfway between us if we weren't going to meet on Christmas Day itself. Fast forward to today, he called me after discussing it with his wife and offered to host at their place instead. My first reaction was to ask if this didn't just reintroduce the issue of having to deal with Christmas traffic. The very reason he didn't want to come to my place. He initially got defensive and suggested we just do our own thing for the holidays. For context, my brother often drives long distances while I rarely do. Additionally, I have health issues that makes long trips harder for me to manage. So am I the asshole for not wanting to drive 3 hours each way for Christmas lunch, especially when he was the one who didn't want to deal with traffic in the first place? Edit. I should add that last year he suggested that I hosted my place. I only just moved in, so it didn't happen. Since I'm more settled, I thought I'd offer for this year. He also makes similar Lent trips every couple of weeks. It says, not the asshole. Relationships are about compromise. Are there any other extenuating circumstances, like are they caretakers for small children, elderly, or pets that can't be left alone for half a day? Is there any mass transit available to help? You make it sound like you live on opposite sides of the city. That must be a big metro area, so wondering if there are any trains, etc. that can make commuting easier. Good luck. If not, just meet over FaceTime or Zoom, I guess. No kids, we both have pets. I'll be fine for the time either of us will be gone. I live on the outskirts of the city and he lives in a country town, the other side of the city. Thank you, that's true. Could certainly do FaceTime if it comes to it. Yeah, it kind of seems like, he doesn't want to deal with the traffic, but they would host at theirs because, if you're hosting at yours, you don't have to deal with the traffic. So you kind of forget that other people do, or you put past that. It's saying the brother is used to dealing with long drives, but maybe just because he's used to dealing with it doesn't mean he likes doing it, He can be capable, but it's the holidays. You don't you do what you have to do if it's for work or whatever. But if it's your time off, you don't necessarily want to spend the whole time driving, etc. But he does seem to not have the, physical limitations that the OP does have. Something, health issues, I don't know, doesn't specify, but either way, it does seem like it's one thing for him, one thing for the other person, but yeah.